Yeah. So, the mood of the moon, we are in the birth moon. So, tonight we're going to have Elisha, who is standing by. She's a doula. She's standing by for a birth that's going to be happening here soon.
At some point.
Do you find that births happen more around like new moons or full moons in particular? Because I know our cycles are often linked to that.
um, it seems to like come and go. I've like I know going to hospitals, like I was actually just at a birth over the full moon, last full moon, and I know that when I've been at births during the full moons, um, the hospital staff does seem that they see it because they see a lot more births, right? Um, I feel like my clients tend to be it just kind of is all over the board, but I know the hospital does see a lot more during the full moons, but not this past full moon. I had a client, but they didn't have like anybody at the hospital, so besides her.
Wow. All right. So I'm going to share my screen and just kind of give a minute and make sure that everything's looking right. Yay, I can still see you guys. Do you guys see my screen?
Uh-huh.
The birth moon is
Yes.
up? Great. Awesome. So, this is like the last moon in this series, but it's so funny because I feel like every single month there's like, it's a new year. So we started out, it's a new year. And then February, it's like, oh, it's a Chinese New Year. And then March came around and it's like, everything's new, sprouting and everything. And there's just like all this constant, every single month, it was like new, beginning. But this is literally the first month of like the pagan wheel of the year. So again, it's a new year, and this is the birth moon. So it's like the new beginning moon. Kind of funny that we're ending with the what is supposed to be the beginning moon.
Huh.
And then it's going to repeat in a cycle. So last year in January we started with the milk moon. The milk obviously comes from like the breasts, and after giving birth you have the nourishment of the new soul, a new little body. So just I wanted to do this like as a whole series, and this would be the last one. I'm not sure what next year is going to bring, but I'm here for you, for this tonight. And I was like inspired to start this like right around the new year last year, the new calendar, Gregorian calendar year last year. So I'm just going to kind of see what comes up and where we go from here. I'm at this point I'm not planning to continue, but we'll see what happens. I like to think instead of like a circle of repeating circle, it's more like a spiral. So we have this cyclical, we're still visiting these themes every year, and it was just so in tune throughout the year. I had to do very little effort to come up with themes or to, plan things out because it's already laid out there. It's already kind of our ancestors have been watching these cycles for centuries, and the name of the moons I didn't come up with. This is just um, wisdom from the tradition. So it was really nice to share that with this group. So I'm super grateful, and I do have a little gift for you guys at the end of this. I'll share more about what that is. Um, so yeah, the mood of the moon. Every month we kind of start with the mood of the moon. So we have the birth moon now, and these are always on the new moons, and this is the theme for the next 28 days or so. We just passed the death moon, so last month we did like some reincarnation work and looked at the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and that was like the end of the cycle, and this is the very beginning. Next will be the milk moon. And so the beginning is in the tarot, the very first card of the tarot is the Fool. And the number it's assigned is actually 0. So not 1, but 0. That's like beginning stage. Um, so it means like venturing forth, being open to all possibilities. The Fool is kind of like foolish because it doesn't know. It's like this newness. So think about bringing in this sense of beginner's mind and sometimes we can go into, like, we get in our car and we drive and we just, like, we're on autopilot almost, but really feel like whatever you're doing, give it a sense of, like, wonder, like you're experiencing it for the first time, even if it's something you've done over and over and over again. Because there's always something different. The time is different, the place is slightly different, our perspectives are different. There's always some newness in each moment. The Wheel of Fortune is another card, new stages, like a changing of life stages, going from the maiden to the mother, or the mother to the crone, this sort of like stage of life changing. And then the aces, so beginnings or the pure essence of the elements. So in the tarot deck, we've got the 4 elemental cards. The aces are like the beginning card for each element, so they're the most pure essence of that element. The sun and moon are together in Sagittarius. It's a very enterprising sign that like loves adventure and learning and new experiences. We're moving towards Capricorn, a sign of productivity, material production. It's governed by Saturn, which is a planet associated with like parenting, lessons, guidance, things like that, where Jupiter is more like expansive and seeking new experiences. So these are the astrological influences for the next month. So we're talking about creative force, new ideas, and we're here talking about the miracle of birth with Elisha, our friend Elisha, Doula. It's so funny that well, I'll stay here for a minute. So you were like, oh, I might not be able to jump on because, there's this birth, and obviously that's your job to attend births, and it's so funny because this is the birth moon.
I know.
But I also think it has to do with like the solar eclipse that's happening right now. I don't know if either of you are experiencing a big change in your life, but I had some very sudden news yesterday. And it's like, wow, eclipse energy, totally.
Huh.
So there's that. I wanted to put this slide on last month, the 13th sign. Have either of you heard of this or follow astrology a whole lot? The 13th sign. I'm
I've
not even
read
sure.
about it, but not a whole lot.
I'm not
No.
sure I'm pronouncing it's right, but it's like Ophiuchus.
Uh-huh. That sounds right.
So the Babylonians knew about this portion of the zodiac that's in our plane of ecliptic. So we have the 12 zodiacs, and the Babylonians are created the first like sort of calendar that we still use today. So the roots of our modern day calendar is from them. And they noticed this space in the sky, in the heavens, right in between, Scorpio and Sagittarius, and they're like, well, there's this sign, but that would make it 13, and it wouldn't be easily divisible, and we couldn't, divide it up easily. So it's like this chaos number. 13 is seen as unlucky today, but it's also linked to like a goddess number, this number of chaos. It's like the very feminine sort of energy. It's like not structured, not predictable, like it's kind of interesting in that way. And they assigned it, it's very tricky. A lot of people don't even associate it with astrology because they're like, again, it's too hard to organize. It doesn't have we can't assign like an element to it, or they'll just arbitrarily give it fire. And then the timing is November 29th through December 18th, so everything gets pushed around and moved around. But like intuitively for me, I feel like this sign would happen around like when Halloween and the first weekend of like the last week of October and the first week of November would be, because it's very much associated with like the death and dying and rebirth kind of thing. And the snake handler, the snake bearer, that is Ophiuchus, is like a medicine worker. So when you see the caduceus symbol of medicine and health, It's like a staff with two snakes going around it, and snakes are just often associated with medicine. So, I mean, we'll just something to think about, this like, chaos number, if you will, and this sign, if you happen to fall in between there, because I'm actually a Capricorn, but I'm on my moon is Sag, but in Vedic I'm Sagittarius. So like, just be open to that. There may be another sign, or you may be more associated with the sign before yours.
So it affects every month, correct? Everything would sort of be pushed in a different direction.
Yeah, it kind of pushes up most things back, but then it also squeezes in between these two signs.
Right. So so it pushes things back. So it would so say like Virgo would start earlier than it currently does.
Yep.
Okay. So instead of it starting on like August 24th, it would start like August or like August 23rd or whatever it is.
I
Or
haven't
like,
memorized the dates for like
right.
this assignment. Even like in Vedic, it's more like it's about 15 days earlier. And Vedic astrology is more they're calculating for this like little quarter of a day error that's been happening over time.
Uh-huh.
So it's more like where the sun actually is versus
Where it
um,
was.
I don't really understand all the details.
Yeah. It's confusing, I feel like.
It
I think
is.
I'm
I mean,
still a Virgo though, because I'm September 4th. So I think no matter where it changes, I'm still
yeah.
there in that sign at least, right?
Mm.
I think.
So, the full moon is, I can't see it because, December 18th coming up. It's called the cold moon. And every month has like different names. Mostly when you hear like the corn moon and the strawberry moon, the mead moon and the harvest moon, those are often names for the full moons taken from Native American culture. So the groups or the meetings that we're doing are based on the new moons, which is from more of a pagan tradition. Um, so these names are mostly taken from Native Americans. They say in parentheses which tribe they're from, and then the last one, moon before Yule, is kind of what the pagans call the full moon coming up. And of course, we have Yule. So there's 13 moons in a year, and 8 Sabbats, or like pagan holy days. So, and Yule is one of the 4 that have to do with the sun, and is that so this will be the shortest day of the year. We'll have the least amount of sunlight. Daylight, the longest night is another name for it. And when it's Yule, we're celebrating the return of the sun. So oftentimes that's interpreted as S-O-N, sun, instead of S-U-N, sun. So the Christian tradition is more focused on that sun being Jesus, and pagans more of sun being like that fireball in the sky that gives us life and sustenance. So symbols that of this time from pagans, like wreaths, are a circle, and it's a symbol of the cycle of the year, and that it's a symbol of um, this too shall pass kind of thing. A lot of times, coldness and darkness and scarcity are what winter's all about. So it's kind of just a celebration of like the sun is coming back. The days are getting longer, even though it's going to be cold. And then ornaments and trees came from people would make little treats to put out for wildlife, and they would leave candles lit outside so wildlife could have some warmth, or and have like cookies, or you could string along popcorn and cranberries and wreaths and put them outside for the birds and the squirrels and the animals. So all that is kind of pagan tradition that we brought inside and kind of lost the meaning of, but it's still really fun to have a tree up and put lights on it and ornament decorations and everything. But just kind of interesting that, looking at the source of it and remembering that, oh, maybe I should put some food outside for wildlife, you know. uh, oh, and the mushrooms. So the whole red and white theme of like Santa's outfit is linked to this mushroom, the fly, and in a pagan and Wiccan books, it's an ingredient in magical things called fly agaric. It's just the amanita mushroom, which is toxic if ingested when it's fresh. So you have to dry it out, and then you can work with the medicine. Or another way they would do is they would actually, deer will eat these mushrooms fresh. It's not toxic to them. And then people would collect the urine from the deer and then drink that and get high that way, or get the effects of the psilocybin from drinking the urine of the deer that would eat it fresh, because it would remove the toxins through the deer's body. So, but mostly what you can do is dry them out in little stockings hung by the fire, which is where the tradition of hanging your little socks there. I see you got your stockings up on the hearth behind you.
Mm-hmm.
So put a
I
little.
have a question. How did they collect the reindeer urine?
Right?
That's a great question. I do not know how they did that.
I've heard that, the saying of like, don't eat the yellow pea or the yellow snow, I mean.
Oh, right.
I've heard that that's part of it.
So.
Yeah, I've heard that that's part of it. They would collect it through the yellow snow.
Oh.
How do you know you're getting reindeer urine? I guess you're watching the reindeer.
Yeah, and then
I don't know. I haven't read too much about it, but I did hear that little tidbit.
That's great.
I'm sorry, I just found that kind of humorous to think about.
Yeah.
Okay, I just have a slide here, but I was not going to be at home today, so I was like, let me just put some of my crafts up there. It's just things that I've made. I wanted you guys to share with me what you've made this year. I know Alicia's a maker, where I'm always making something. I made some fire cider. I made a bunch of pepper relish, and I painted a mailbox for Keith's dad for Christmas.
Well, I love it.
But what are you guys making?
I'm actually planning on making fire cider one of these days in the next, like, I don't know, any day soon. I'm planning on making. I need to dig up some horseradish, and I have the ginger and turmeric from you, so I wanted to use that. And then my apple cider vinegar is almost done, so I'm excited about that because I made the vinegar.
That's really cool,
Local
because I
apples.
bought vinegar when I wanted to make my fire cider. I was like, oh, I need a really good vinegar. But
Yeah,
so
I know I've never made it before, so I made that this year.
how did you use the apple peels? Because you told me you got a bunch of apples from the orchard when it was like harvest season for apples, and you made like sauces, I guess.
Right, we made applesauce and then saved some of it as applesauce and then made the rest, turned it all into like apple butter. And we have like this little like old school sort of style like peeler corer and thing. So we did all that, and like all the cores and the peels, it's all you need for the sauce, or for the vinegar.
So what do you just add water and like?
Add water and sugar.
Oh, okay,
It's
so
like
the sugar
a cup of water per quart of, maybe it was, I forget, per gallon of water or something.
a cup of sugar per gallon of water.
It might be, I forget what the ratio was, but yeah,
I bet Ralph. I wonder if Ralph ever makes that, because I made ginger ale recently, and I called Ralph because I had some yeast left over from the hemp beer that we made, and because he was saying you could make bread from that yeast, and I know he makes ginger ale with using yeast. I was like, can I make ginger ale? Because I got all this ginger,
Yeah.
So I made ginger ale, and I was really excited because
So cool.
I put the yeast in there and the sugar, and it got fizzy. So it's really yummy.
Yeah, I've made like like fresh fermented soda before too, and I think I did grapes a long time ago, and it kind of got super fizzy.
Oh, I lost my SCOBY too. The one you gave me, I had on my countertop, and the fruit flies freaking got in there. So
Oh, I have another one. I don't have any kombucha going right now, but I have some in the fridge that I made. So, but I still have the SCOBY.
cool.
I've been knitting. I do a lot of knitting, so I've been doing that, and I have like a couple projects going right now, but I'm trying to work on my daughter's leg warmers, so that's my number one knitting project at the moment.
Did you make that knit skirt you were wearing the other day?
No, I wish I got
That's
it
cute. I
used.
mean, that would be so hard. I remember knitting. I tried knitting once, and I made a square, like, not even a square. It was like this big, and I'm like, I'm done.
You need
That's
bigger needles and chunkier yarn.
Oh yeah.
No, I've made some sweaters and like dress for Sybil and different things like that, but that skirt, no, I didn't make.
That's why I like sewing because it's so fast and easy to just whip, whip, whip.
Yeah. I'd like to do more sewing this year. I want to get like linen fabric and find some cute dress patterns. I think that would be fun because I've done some sewing. I've like made dolls from sewing and doll clothing, but I made a skirt a really long time ago, but I haven't really made anything for myself in years.
I've found that fabric is super duper expensive, like so ridiculous.
I
And
know.
especially linen. Linen can be really hard to find.
I
So,
know.
like thrift stores, if you can find sheets and blankets and
Yeah.
scarves. I mean, that's how I started the pashmina business. I was like, these pashminas are fabulous. I have so many of them, and I'm just like, I'm just going to use this pashmina fabric as, my
Right.
cloth because it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
It's true because I just ordered, like, I have one linen dress that I bought years ago and I have another one that I just ordered. And I'm like, I've looked into like linen and like different materials. And I'm like, when you're buying it from a small maker, it's about pretty much the same price. Like, the fabric and all the time that goes into it. I mean, I still have to like, I still think about that, even if it's just for myself. It's like they're not, it is an expensive fiber.
It's made from flax.
Yeah.
All right. Sharon, what have you been making other than mothering your birds? What other? I know you take care of Ray.
Yeah, well, I make my own granola and I make kombucha, and I made some pickled jalapenos this year,
Oh,
I
yeah.
do that.
and
Yeah.
and I grow a lot of lettuce, and um, I also made some purses, and I made a baby blanket and some burping cloths for a friend of mine that just had a baby.
Aw.
And yeah, I do a lot of sewing. I make bags. That's kind of my
Fun.
weakness in life.
I used
And
to long time ago make bags out of like old jeans,
Mhm.
and then like I would use ties to make like the strap. I was like a kid then practically, but it was fun.
I love
Yeah,
upcycling things.
Yeah.
I get
Combines two of my passions because I love thrift shopping too, but then
Yeah.
and you end up with too much stuff. But it's fun to like alter things and combine. I've had like shirts that I love the design on them, but they don't fit right, so I'll cut out the design and make it a patch on and put it on another shirt or something.
Yeah.
right. And I also like to make like little dangly things that you hang on the window.
Oh, like sun catchers?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. I've been making those recently, so just trying to keep busy.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's always nice to have a project going. I feel like
Yeah,
I always become more definitely more like project driven this time of the year when it's just like chillier and there's more time to sit and do things. Although
Absolutely.
homeschooling seems to take up a lot of my time these days, but
I'm gonna share my screen again. All right. So we're constantly creating, I believe.
yeah.
That's kind of what makes us unique as humans. So, yeah, here you are. I grabbed these pictures from Facebook. So how do you get your clients, by the way? Because I was like Googling you. I'm like, how do I find her? And I was like,
Right.
oh, I'll just go to Facebook.
Right. So I work for a small company locally called Thrive Birth Services of Delmarva. And they find all of my clients, which is wonderful. Hey, babe. Hey.
Honey, is there tea for me?
This is something I created.
Oh, there you go. Beautiful.
Who else are you talking
A
to?
couple women.
Hi. Thanks.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, so I work for Thrive Birth Services of Delmarva. It's just a one woman owns it. It's a small company. I think there's like four, or maybe I think it's four birth doulas of like us working together. And we cover like birth doula work and postpartum care. And then the company also has like a birth class and also placenta encapsulation. I do the birth work and then some postpartum care. If a client hires me as their birth doula and they also want like postpartum care as well, and they're like willing to make it work into my like into our schedules together, then I'll do that for them. It's just not my like, some people, go straight into that and that's their passion of like the postpartum side of it. For me, I really love the birth side of it, and that's where I'm more drawn towards.
My
But
friend Laura, who was the guest for October's Blood Moon, she's like a menstruation consultant,
oh,
and
interesting.
she is a postpartum doula specifically. So
Right.
she specializes in like lactation and
Yeah.
latching, and she does gua sha, which is like the scraping to try to
Uh-huh.
for like the milk ducts and stuff.
Is she a lactation consultant then too?
Mhm.
Okay,
Oh,
nice.
I don't know. You would think so, right?
Sounds like it. Yeah. Because
Um,
I'm not like, if I do postpartum care, I can help with breastfeeding only because I've experienced it myself. But, you know, with everything now, you have to be so like specific on like, I'm not really giving you any actual information because I'm not certified with that.
Right. I don't
Um,
know that she's technically certified, but I know she is on the menstruation and vaginal steaming. She does a lot
uh-huh.
of steams and smokes. Um,
That's that's a nice thing to do for postpartum. Yeah, and like some people love that. And like postpartum care can look like so many different things. I mean, you can help with just light housework around the house. You can help with taking care of the baby while they shower or sleep or something. And I love it specifically if it was a client that I was there for and we already have that like connection and I can sort of like follow it through to the next phase. But the birth side is just like where I really love it, and I've been doing that since 2015 as like a certified doula. I was at my sister's birth in 2010, and that's when I learned even that a doula like existed. I didn't even know that was a thing before that.
I have my friend that came and worked with me in Colorado this summer. My friend and her daughter. Her daughter is 17, and she's done like over 100 pap smears. Like she is like training to be a midwife, and
Oh
she's done
wow.
all this stuff. She's not even 18 yet,
Oh
and
my
she's
goodness.
attended like so many births and done like vaginal exams and pelvic exams.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
incredible.
Bella.
Wow. Yeah, so when like back in 2010 when I was with my sister, I was with her for her birth and I had met a doula and then we like sort of got together and she showed me things to do to help. And at that point that's when I like really fell in love with the idea of being a doula. But I kind of at that point also felt like you had to already have children to really be able to be a doula successfully. At this point, I don't think that that's true. I think that the woman who was with me when I had my daughter, actually, she was incredibly supportive and she hadn't had children until recently. And I actually like when I think about the best doula to be, it's like I think about her. So, and I try to like be, I don't know, I've tried to be like her, as a guidance. Um, but anyway, so then fast forward, I had children and I feel like I looked into it numerous times, but it just always wasn't the right moment. At that point, it was kind of like a yoga retreat where you had to go away over the weekend, and it was expensive and far away. And I don't know, I had little kids, so it just wasn't the phase. But then
What was the training like? Like, was it a weekend thing? Because I
so
saw.
for me, it ended up being, I met a woman locally and she was offering us like a small online training. And it was from February until I think we finished in October of 2015.
And
So we
often
would,
was it like online or in
yeah,
person?
it was online. We would like, we had books that we would read and then like paperwork that we would sort of get together. And then we would meet as like a group basically on Zoom, but I don't remember what platform we used. And that was like, yeah, like a 9-month training, I think it was.
There was like Eastern Shore Doulas was doing a weekend thing,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it was like gonna be followed up. I really wish I could have gone. It was $500 and it was one weekend. I was like, I can do that, but I was still in
Yeah.
Colorado, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's a lot more available like options now. And I think that that's great. Um, yeah, and I mean, the first client that I took was while I was still in my training. It was like August of 2015. And so I took my first client before I was finished the training, but I'd already done so much of it at that point because it started in February. And at this point, I think I've been with like over 40 moms. So
Wow.
it's been a lot at this point.
Did you say you attended Eve's birth?
Eva? Uh-huh. Oh, Eve. No, I was little girl. No, I wasn't with her. Are you meaning like Eve Cinderman?
Yeah.
No, she was like the first little baby that I held though.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew her and her brother when I was
She's
little.
like not that little. She's in her 20s.
Yeah, no, I think she's like what, 22?
I'm not sure, but yeah.
Yeah, so I think maybe she's older than that. I think I was like 7 when she was born.
We just had Kelsey join. Hello. Kelsey, we have kind of shared what we've done as far as like what have you created this year, and I don't think I can hear you yet, but I know you're a major creator. You've created all kinds of content and a new online stuff, so if you want to share about that, you're welcome to.
Hi.
Hi.
That's so beautiful. I'm trying to get to some light. I've like been in the vibes in this
Oh,
new
right.
moon eclipse. Ooh. Yeah, it's been wild. I just like took a bath and like had to release it all. Yeah, very spiritual. And creation mode. This has been a huge year of creation, actually. Thank you for honoring that, and having this space. It actually was beautiful because last night, as I was journaling after a big meditation I was doing with all of these energies, I finished my journal, and it was the journal that I started in February or in January at the beginning of the year. And so I really got to like page through it and feel like the closure of all of the energetics that I've been going through all year, and the drastic amount that I have changed my entire life. And so
Totally.
I created a new space for myself. I got off the road and moved to a completely different state. I now have manifested and created a home for myself in the mountains, and birthed a brand new business. I help co-birth another business that is taking off in really beautiful ways. And now have this epic music project that I'm doing with another friend, and we're writing music and creating an album, and it's like this whole like global movement of healing and offerings that is going to really, like, I feel like, change the world and go more spirituality hits the main stage and bring in feminine empowerment and divine union within yourself, even because like he's a divine masculine and I'm a divine feminine, holding this space and like organizing this new container to really birth these new creative ideas. And there's just been so much space and facets. Like, I obviously don't want to take all the time, but there has just been so much that has been gifted through this time that I've been reflecting on. And like, some of it has been hard, and it has taken all of my love and like this whole death and rebirth and restructuring everything to a point of my body feels like it won't handle it, and then it does. And that's like this beautiful thing as us as divine women, like we go through all these mini deaths all the time, and yet we just keep going, and it keeps turning into these beautiful creations of birthing energy. And I'm just so honored and happy to be here, to be in this container, and even to share it and witness all of you divine queens. It's so beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it feels like that when you said, you have to be open to be creating. It's kind of like we are giving birth.
Yeah.
And that's the way I see, my little business is, I call it my creative baby. And I'm always having these little creative babies pop up everywhere. And I think that this year, my my big creative baby this year was these moon circles. And, I've put together slides and guests and themes and everything and all this like content. And now it's all packaged, like it's all on my website, and it feels so, complete and there. And I'm like, here it is. Here's my baby. you know. So, and it's funny how the themes really overlap too, because I was speaking with Elisha when we were talking about, we're opening the voice. When we were talking about like the throat yoni and your voicing your intuitions, and Elisha, who's a doula, was telling me like to giving birth, she'll like, what were you saying? You do like a massage the jaw.
Yeah, just like as a gentle reminder, because the last thing you want to hear when you're in labor is relax your face, relax your jaw, relax your shoulders, but like a gentle reminder of like massaging there, sort of just like, and massaging on the shoulders just like lets the tension go without having to verbally say relax. Because sometimes that word's just like, shut up, please. But so just like gentle reminders, because I mean, energetically to me, I think is enough, but scientifically our like muscles here are connected to our yoni muscles as well. But energetically as well, like when you are tense and you're like all tense here, you're not going to be relaxed anywhere, right? Like if you're just holding your shoulders up and you're like all stressed out and you're like that, what in the world are you, what's happening? Nothing's opening. You can't, you're not letting go into the situation, right? So just, yeah, like relaxing here and relaxing your shoulders helps you to just like relax your whole body, but especially like your yoni area, and helps you to like to birth the baby for sure.
I feel like that's applicable to all our creativity.
Yeah.
We're in the state of constant stress and like tension here. It's really hard to like open up enough to be like this kind of portal where like ideas can flow in, be created in your body and in your mind, and then be sent out into the world. You got to have like this openness.
Yeah, and then, like even the tension could be even like anxieties, right? Like anxieties cause tension and stress, and like if you're well, is anyone going to like what I'm creating or whatever, like if you're having those thoughts, you're not letting yourself freely be open to the possibilities. You're shutting it all down.
Yeah, fear, right? Fear
Yeah.
is a lot. So we were talking about anxiety and like relating it back to actually giving birth, because I know you've had babies. I have not had kids. Kelsey, I don't believe has, and Sharon, I'm not sure. So
No.
what's that?
No.
No? Okay. Well, I wanted this to be applicable even if you have or have not. But so Elisha, when you attend births, are you doing mostly home births, or are you doing
No,
births? Both?
I mostly hospital births. I've been birth centers, we don't have a lot in our area though. There's one like in Annapolis, an hour and a half from where I live. And but so yeah, home births I attend once in a while, but if you're hiring a midwife, chances are you're not going to be able to hire a doula as well. sometimes that's not the case, and I think that's great. Like I actually have a client who's due in February, and she's gonna be a home birth, and it's her second home birth, and I was with her for her first. And I think, you know, having extra support is amazing, and having a doula and a midwife in a home birth situation, I think is great. But you know, it's not always the case. And my favorite place to be is at a home birth. But truly, I think the place that a doula is needed the most is at a hospital birth, because that's where you really need the advocate. That's where you really need the extra support. You know, in the hospital, part of the idea of a doula is that, you know, in a hospital setting, you're meeting all the doctors or the midwives, and you're not sure who you're going to get. You're not sure which, you know, nurses you're going to have with you. And then you're in a room, they're not even with you the whole time anyway. And not that somebody needs to be with a birthing mom the whole time. You know, at a home birth, that's not really what it looks like. But in a hospital birth, you are in this like uncomfortable environment, somewhere where you're just not super familiar. So having support is really beautiful. But also like in an area where the nurses, the doctors, they all change shifts as well. And they're also attending to other moms. So they can't be there with you the whole time. You know, the doctors or the midwives, they come in and check you every 4 hours, maybe. And then they're there when you're pushing. They're not there to give you support during the labor side of it. They're there to give you support during the pushing side, but they're also there primarily to make sure that baby and you are physically safe, not emotionally safe. And the nurses are amazing, and they will support in so many beautiful ways, but they also aren't there the whole labor side. They can't be. They have other things to do throughout the hospital, you know, throughout they have a whole lot of other patients most likely to take care of. So they can't be with you. And then, like I said, they change shifts. So part of what's beautiful about a doula is that you get to know who's going to be there, and you get to know that they're going to be with you the whole time. In the event that I were to get sick or something and couldn't attend the birth, then I would have backup. That doesn't generally happen, but of course that could happen. So in that case, they wouldn't have that same connection, but they would at least still know that they're going to have somebody there to support them the whole time.
So when does your job start? Does it start during labor or during third trimester?
So it just depends on when they hire me. But, you know, generally, even if they hire me in the very beginning, you know, we get together once as the consultation basically, and then they decide if they're going to hire me, if we're going to work well together. And then as it gets closer, we have 2 prenatal visits. So two meetings that we do for like an hour or so each, before they go into labor. And that's sort of to like get to know them. And I like to do those make sure both of those are sort of done by 2 weeks before they're due. But I don't like it to be too far away from when they're due, so that it's like fresher, so that they can feel comfortable. And if anything comes up, like emotional wise, stress wise, we can talk about it. And then like, as soon as I'm on call from 2 weeks before they're due until 2 weeks, you know, until they have their baby basically. And if anyone's like having early signs of labor, I'll go on call early. And then it's sort of just like having my phone by my bed and potentially being woken up at 1 a.m.
So you're mostly just there for the whole process of giving birth.
Yeah. For that, I like when they tell me that they're in labor and that they want me to come, it's up to them. Like when they start feeling like they need support, that's when I recommend, you know, that's when I would come, because if you're not needing support, then you feel like you have to host somebody.
Or then I feel like I'd be a little bit nervous, like, oh God, she's been here for 4 hours. I should probably have this baby by now, right?
No. I mean, so in a way that could be a potential thought, because like the contracted hours of me being a doula is 12 hours of in-person time. And anything over 12 hours is generally just an additional fee, because, you know, after 12 hours, then it's kind of like an overtime essentially. And the only reason that, I mean, part of why that happens is because, yeah, you, as soon as you start going into labor, I don't really want my client to be like, hey, come over here now, because then I will be there for like, 24, 32 hours, most likely, because labor doesn't start like, oh, hey, we're, having a baby now. It's like slow and gradual.
I'll tell you my birth story and then we'll talk.
Right. I mean, and it's not always the case, but that's why, like, so when mom calls me, like, we talk and I see how she sounds and like, well, when do you want me to come? What are you feeling? And if she's just like gradually starting labor, then we'll just talk throughout the day. And then when she wants me to come, then I go.
But like for right now, where do you have to go? Because I know you have a mother that's been induced. She's already been induced.
She's being induced slowly because she was having high blood pressure. But it wasn't high enough that they were like, you need to have a baby right now. It's high enough that they just didn't want her to stay pregnant for 2 more weeks or up to, 3 or 4 more weeks, because she's due later on this month. But she's due like the 20th. Anyway, so, but it's a gradual, induction can be very gradual at times. And because she's not in any like immediate risk situation, they're not pushing it too quickly.
So are they giving her Pitocin, you
They're
think?
not. There's different medicines that, like, there's one that's called Cytotec, and then one that's like, I forget what the other one's called. Basically, there's 2 that sort of mimic sperm, and it helps to soften the cervix to help.
I know something else that
yeah,
that would work.
Yes, exactly.
That.
I definitely encourage that, but it's not gonna be like the dosage that they're giving you. Basically, if someone's like,
we need a high dose of sperm here.
Basically, yeah. If somebody is like getting close to their 2-week past due date and the doctors are like trying to talk about induction because of that, I do recommend that, like sex, nipple stimulation. Those are all things that can help encourage labor to start. So but yeah, so at this point they're using man-made, scientifically made, basically the same thing in a higher dosage, and it's still a gradual process.
Do you find that you do a lot of like do you ever attend cesarean births?
I have, actually. That was my first birth.
Wow.
The first client I had, she was a planned C-section, and I attended, but the thing about that is generally the hospital's going to tell you that you have to choose between a doula or your partner.
Whoa, that is tough. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it's because it's a smaller room and there's more people present because of the potential risks. They don't want a lot of extra people. Sometimes you'll get it's really, so the anesthesiologist who, does the epidural basically and does the medicine, they get to make the decision. And over, I guess it was 2019, I had a client and they had spoken about it. They had planned on like me being with them, and I went there to meet them, and she was supposed to be going back, and they just kept putting her on wait because other people came in that were like in emergency situations within that department. So they just kept on making her wait, and then the anesthesiologist switched, and the new one was like, nope, you can't come back, there's not enough room. So sometimes you might get the anesthesiologist who says, yeah, you can have your husband or partner and your doula, and that's fine. And then other times it's going to be like, no. So it's a very like strange rule, honestly, because it doesn't really seem fair since it's so up in the air, right? There's no real logistics behind it. But I have been at that. I've been at VBACs, which, is a vaginal birth after a C-section. But most of my clients, I've only had one client who has had to have a C-section after going through the whole natural birth process, because her baby wouldn't come out basically, and nothing was really, heart rate was fine, but
was it like a big baby, or did she have like small hips, or what was the problem?
She was 5 foot, and the baby was, so she was 5 foot, not a very large body of 5 foot either. And the baby ended up having a 14-inch head, which an average head is like 13-inch circumference, and so he was 14-inch head circumference. He was almost 9 pounds. and 21 inches and 1/4 like inches long.
Wow, big baby.
Yeah.
So that's where the whole, she has childbearing hips, back in the olden days when we didn't have all these interventions and
Yeah.
medicines and whatnot, you were not likely to survive childbirth if you weren't,
Yeah.
built strong.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. And like, there's so many other things that could go wrong too, but like, high blood pressure was something that actually took a lot of women.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's wild because this is actually so close to me. My mom's 5 foot. I was just as big.
Yeah.
And I was a cesarean because my mom always was like, it's like you didn't want to come out because you had 1 foot on each side going, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Leave me in.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of how this baby was too. She was already 2 weeks past due and her water broke and labor didn't start on its own. So it's like, the baby really didn't want to come out either.
Right. Yeah. That's apparently my
But he
story.
came out happy and healthy and strong. So that was good.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that high blood pressure is totally a big thing. I know my mom suffered from that.
Yeah.
As well. I have a brother who's 15 years younger than me. So I was pretty much with her for a lot of that. So I have not given birth to my own physical child, but I was very close with my mother while she was going through it. It's quite the experience.
Did she have another cesarean, Kelsey?
No, she was able to have 2 vaginal births after me. I was the only one that was so stubborn.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I was born, I'll share my birth story, I suppose, real quick. I was born in Germany, and my parents were both in the military. And so my mom knew the conception date because there was like one day where they could like have sex in like this long period where they were both deployed and whatnot. So I was like, conceived on April 10th, she remembers. And the doctors, she was 23 when she had me. The doctors said her due date was January 11th. And when she like was going to the bathroom on January 10th, she just thought she had to like really go to the bathroom really bad. And she was like pushing on the toilet and everything. And her water broke. And my dad just happened to come home for like a lunch break. And she's like, it can't be the baby. I mean, my due date's tomorrow. This is how naive my mom was at the time. And he's like, we better take you to the barracks tent, the medical tent on the barracks of the military. And they're like, you're going to have this baby. And I was born in a tent in Germany and like 20 minutes after they arrived, within an hour of my mom's water breaking.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, and right on time. She's like, you know what, we did conceive on the 10th, so it does make sense you were born on the 10th. And then I always feel I'm so timely because my period started on my 12th birthday. And like every time I look at a clock, it's like right on the o'clock moment. Like,
yeah, that's interesting. Wow, she must have been having like contractions and not knowing.
must
Like going to the bathroom, that was the contraction that she was like, oh, probably having a stomach ache and being like, I have to go to the bathroom. It was probably labor.
Wow.
I mean, some that's incredible for a first birth.
First and only.
Yeah, that's cool.
So let's see. I had some questions. Did you want to share any birth stories that you've attended? Some especially miraculous ones or kind of crazy ones or
Miraculous. I mean, they're all
they're all
like they're all incredible. It's like even you hear somebody like, I mean, C-sections are intense. Don't have a C-section unless you really need one, is what my intentional thought is because it's a serious surgery. But watching a baby being born in any way is just so beautiful and such a miracle. And even in the planned C-section, like she could have done a natural birth fully because it's so intense, and she was so strong within the C-section because it's also really intense.
Mm.
But
Is
like,
it true, like at some point, I feel like the cesarean rates were rising and rising. I don't know if they're still rising,
I'm
but
not
like,
100% sure if they are or aren't at this point. I think that they still are, and maybe more in certain areas. But is what true? What was the next part of that?
oh, like so doctors are scheduling cesareans because it's more convenient for them rather than to try to be on call for a woman who's naturally going to give birth.
I don't know. I feel like I haven't seen that. So I'm not sure. I really haven't seen that though, but um yeah, I haven't really seen that happen, but I know a lot of interventions do lead to more interventions, which can then lead to more interventions.
Which is why
So,
you want to have an advocate like a doula.
right, right. And certain interventions are necessary. C-sections are incredible to have because yeah, babies would die and moms would die. And that does still happen in childbirth sometimes, right? Because nothing's ever perfect. But it's definitely like beautiful to have these options in the moments where you need them. But a lot of things that do happen in hospitals are, to me, it seems like a lot of liability. They're doing a lot of things to prevent them from being sued, in my mind.
Mm.
To just protect themselves in the case that something were to go wrong. And that to me is weird. They're not really looking at each individual as an individual. They're looking at this as a collective. And that's not how labor should be, in my mind. I feel like, even with like the different shots that they give a baby after birth or something, like it maybe needs to be on a more case by case basis, potentially, with certain things, because it's not all black and white. And Pitocin, they will give that after birth to sort of help you not hemorrhage and to help your uterus shrink. But if you haven't had any interventions and you haven't already had Pitocin, there's no reason that you should need that. Your body should already be working properly. Your body should be making enough oxytocin to not hemorrhage, to, help your uterus shrink again and to help birth the placenta. But in the case of like, oh, hey, I am now hemorrhaging, then you give the Pitocin at that point to help more go there, right? To help it stop.
What
But
about herbal things? If you're like, my client would prefer to have yarrow tea instead to help stem the bleeding.
well, in certain situations, it's just not quick enough that it would probably act. And as a doula, I can't recommend things like that, especially not in a hospital setting.
Mm.
Because I'm not medically trained. So if they have a birth plan and there's something that's not like, if there's something where it can be like they're talking about this is happening and now we're probably going to need to do a C-section, I can be like, so do they have time to talk about this? This is sort of what she wanted from her plan. Do they have time to make this decision? I can bring communication back, but I can't really speak for the mom. And I can't really make decisions for the mom because it's just sort of acting outside of the practice. And then yeah, like in the event that a mom like has just had a baby and then they're hemorrhaging, that does need to be taken care of like fairly quickly. So even like home birth midwives, they have Pitocin, they have the other medication that I can't remember the name of that helps more quickly if Pitocin wasn't working to help with the hemorrhage. So because it is more of like, those are events where moms would potentially have died, where hemorrhaging wasn't able to be taken care of quick enough.
So I recently read on Reddit, so I don't know if this is true. It was in like a forum on Reddit that the U.S. for a developed country has the highest rate of maternal mortality in all the developed nations, and it's especially high if you're a minority.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, that's what I've read and heard too. Of course, I mean, yeah, statistically that's supposed to be the case. And I think in the US, like a lot of interventions do happen just on a wide variety where they're not just looking at the client as a case by case. And also a lot of moms, I mean, you have to think like a lot of moms going to the hospital don't learn about birth, don't care. They go in, they just are like, give me the epidural, I want to have the baby, I don't care. They're not understanding the process. They just want to get it over with. And I do think that that's a little bit more common in our culture as well, where you're just like, all right, get this baby out, get it over with. I just don't want to feel anything. And if you've really done research and you still want an epidural, cool. By all means, do what you feel is right for your body and for yourself. But I think research and knowing why is important, right? Like knowing why we do anything in this world, knowing why and what the backing is, because then you're making a conscious decision. You're not just swimming with the crowd because you think, oh, I'm having a baby, I need to have an epidural. You're actually having this conscious thought and you're thinking about why and what are the potential risks and what are the, why. But a lot of moms just go into the hospital and they have a baby, and then we have such a high, we have so many people that are just on drugs while pregnant too. And I don't know if that's higher in our culture or not, but there's a lot of birth that happens where there's not much thought put into it.
So by being on drugs, you mean like prescription drugs or all street drugs?
No,
Anything?
yeah, I mean street drugs, like in
Wow.
certain areas. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of babies that are born, under like on addicted, and those statistics go into the statistic, right? Like those moms, those babies, those births, they go into the statistics. And if we have, and all the moms just going in without understanding birth and not caring how it looks or doesn't look, you are more apt to having, more interventions because you want the epidural. As soon as you get the epidural, you most likely will need Pitocin. Not 100%, but you most likely will. And then there's more interventions, and then it's really hard to push a baby out still. It's really hard to push a baby out if you can't feel properly. And so there's just
Right, so they're gonna
interventions
use
on
like the
top.
forceps or something.
Yeah, or then you're being, rushed off to an emergency C-section because that didn't work either. So I feel like if more people weren't so scared of birth, the statistics would go down.
Right, so even it's like the same thing about death. People are so afraid of death, but we don't really talk about it at all. And we don't talk about birth really either. And as women or even men, even probably less. A lot of the women or people that have been coming to those groups are women, and not, I would say half or less than half even have kids. A lot of us in the group don't have kids, um, but yeah, it's like it's an awareness thing where just like our culture isn't. I'm super fascinated by it. I haven't decided, or I don't know if it's right for me yet, if I'm gonna get to have a baby. But it is scary to think about the hospital set. To me, hospital setting is scary, and I would feel more at ease at home. And just knowing like some of the things that I would want. For example, like once the baby's born, not cutting the cord of it, immediately, and have that skin to skin contact and the vernix, having the baby all, not washed.
Yeah.
Just like keep that protective layer on their skin and everything. Is that something that you can do in a hospital setting?
It is something that you can do. Yeah, for sure. And that's part of like the birth plan, and like knowing that you are paying the hospital and remembering that you hired them essentially, I think helps open that door. Like they don't own you, so they don't get to make all the decisions for you. Of course, like if a medical intervention comes up where it's safer, then they do know the right thing, and it's sometimes better to listen to them. But yeah, I mean, you can totally do delayed cord clamping until it's done pulsating. I mean, I don't see why you couldn't do the Lotus Birth in a hospital setting either.
What's that? What's the Lotus Birth?
That's when you don't ever cut the cord. You
You
keep the
birth the
placenta.
placenta and you keep them together.
Yeah, and you like, do herbs on top of it. I'm sure it would be a lot more difficult, and you'd probably have to fight for your right in the hospital a lot more, because they don't generally like the placenta to leave the birthing space and to go to the mother baby recovery area. But yeah, I mean, a lot of my clients actually do delayed cord clamping until it's done pulsing, and they do wait for the bath. They do wait. I will say Salisbury and Easton Hospital actually encourage the first 2 hours to be just with the mom, skin to skin, and they encourage breastfeeding now. They don't even sometimes weigh the baby until like the 2-hour mark, but at least usually the 1 hour mark.
That's good to know.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, you don't need to do the bath before you, at any point. They don't need to do those things, and you can deny any of the things that you want to deny within the
Because it's expensive and they're charging you for all that.
Yeah. And I mean, I think like the thing about like home birth, home birth can be expensive too. And then the what ifs of like, well, what if I still have to transfer to the hospital and then I have both to pay for? Definitely can keep people from making that home birth decision. And or like insurance that you are already paying for when it covers your birth, or state insurance that covers hospital birth but doesn't cover home birth at all. So there's a lot of things that will help make decisions for people for them, but I think the person making the decision for themselves based on like what they want is the best idea, because you are only gonna you're only gonna have that baby once, no matter if you have 5 kids or not, right? You're only gonna have that one child one time. They don't get to experience birth again, and neither do you with that baby. So I don't know. I chose to do home birth with both of mine, and I loved it. And I don't think, like, if I were to have another baby, I wouldn't go to a hospital.
Does a midwife have to be present at a home birth? And
no, there's a lot of women who do like unassisted birth, planned unassisted birth. And some don't even ever go to a doctor while they're pregnant at all.
I've heard mixed reviews about like getting ultrasounds and how ultrasounds aren't necessarily good for the fetus.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've heard too. And it is like, it's ultrasonic waves, and generally the babies start moving a lot. And well, why are they starting to move a lot all of a sudden? They were perfectly calm before. So I don't think it's in the, like, for Arcadia, my first son, I did get an ultrasound, mostly because that was one of the things I did kind of get nervous about, because there's something called Placenta Previa. And that's when like the placenta is basically in the wrong area. It's like it's down on the bottom where your vagina is. So if you start pushing during that time, you're not going to have a very good experience, right? You're going to break the placenta and hemorrhage. So they were like, because I had told them I was having a home birth, they were like, you really should do this once so that we can sort of clear you of having that. So I did. And then I like read more about it later on, and I was like, oh, well, I didn't really fit into any of those categories to really do that, to like really have that. And then for Sybil, I didn't get any ultrasounds, but some people just make them more comfortable.
So you didn't know you were having a girl or whatever the second?
I didn't know I was having a boy the first time either. I didn't want them to tell me. But yeah, I mean, so you don't have to have a midwife at home if you don't want to. For Arcadia, I had hired a midwife, and she didn't arrive in time though. So he was born unassisted fully. Just me and Taylor were here, and
wow,
it was perfect.
How long were you in labor?
So he was born at 6:15 in the morning, and on the day before I had started contractions very, very gently, like just like period cramps, very mild period cramps, and then they got stronger throughout the day. But that night I slept. I remember like stirring during some of the contractions, but I slept the whole night, and I woke up at like 4 a.m. and I went to the bathroom, and like my mucus plug like came out, and the contractions really started picking up at that point. And that's when Taylor called our midwife, and she was like an hour and a half away. And he was, so that was like 4:30. He was born at 6:15. And I don't think Taylor called the midwife like right away. It might have been like, I don't know. I don't think she answered the first time either.
Will you share more what happened in between the 4:15 to the 6:15?
That was a lot of chaos because I didn't really expect it to go that quickly. So Taylor was like, and I didn't know if I wanted to, I don't know why the night before we didn't have it already set up, but we wanted to have like the bed like downstairs in the living room sort of set up. So I didn't have to walk up the stairs after the birth. And I also was like, well, I might want to not birth in the bathtub. So Taylor was like, I guess he got the bathtub ready for me first, and I got in and kind of was like, oh no, should I not be getting in yet? Is this going to be too early? Am I going to be desensitized basically by the time, by hours from now is what I was thinking.
You're Virgoing it. You're overthinking.
Yeah, basically. But I got in anyway. And then Taylor was like running around getting the living room couch ready and checking on me and calling the midwife. And I kept getting in and out of the bathtub and going to the bathroom. But it was definitely such a short period of time that not a lot of not much happened besides just like running around fixing things to make it, the way it was supposed to be. Like I remember getting out of the tub at one point while Taylor was on the phone with the midwife, and I was like, I think I need to push. And and like pushing can generally take like 2 hours, 3 hours. It didn't.
I think my mom said she pushed like 2 or 3 times.
That's exactly what I did too. It was like I remember coming into the living room, being out of the bathtub and being like, I think I just pushed. And then like, should I hold it? Because the midwife wasn't here. I was like, should I like not push? Because I was like, at that moment, I was like, I want my midwife to be here, still not processing that she wasn't going to be here, And then I had another contraction. I was like, oh, that's not possible. Like, I can't not push. This is happening. I mean, you hear, you read about like the fetal ejection, where your body just sort of takes over. Mm-hmm. That's basically what happened. And wow. Like, there's no controlling once you get to that point, like your body's pushing. There's no way around it. So I was like, okay. And then being out of the bathtub was pretty horrible, in my opinion. So I got back in the bathtub and I'm like, well, I'm having a baby. Our midwife's not going to be here. Processing that. And
you're talking about like a blow up tub, no. Like in the actual bathtub?
Yeah, I mean, that is a great idea to have, but we have
you can keep it warm, you can keep it hot.
They're kind of a pain to keep hot. You have to keep filling them up and emptying them.
Oh, I thought they had like a heater pump on them.
That'd be nice. No, they don't. We have a clawfoot tub, so it's like deeper than most bathtubs. And I was just in our tub, and it was kind of perfect because I love clawfoot tubs, and it's like a really old one. So, but yeah, I mean, and then so Taylor had our midwife on the phone while he was making sure everything was fine. Like she was sort of talking him through like what to do to sort of help me not tear, and
right? Like to put pressure on your perineum.
Yeah. And that, I mean, but that was definitely like super fast. Like it all just happened.
And quickly. You didn't tear?
No, I had like what they call skid marks, kind of like just abrasions. Which burned really bad when I peed afterwards. Owie. It was horrible. Worse than childbirth, in my opinion. But no, so yeah, I mean, so after that, I like sort of stayed in the tub, and then about a half an hour later, after Arcadia was born, the midwife's assistant got to our house, and she was super wonderful and calm, and she like we did just like we clamped the cord. It was like a half an hour, 40 minutes later at that point. So totally done pulsating. And I like birthed the placenta. I guess it was a half an hour. I don't remember. I birthed the placenta and then got out of the tub basically and then like snuggled in the living room. And then the midwife arrived like a little bit after that.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love hearing birth stories so much.
Yeah, it was
I can't
really
believe it's
beautiful.
already 9:20.
Goodness. Oh wow.
Yeah. Um, so I wanted to share with you guys kind of what I have gift for you. I created like a magical calendar for the year. It's got all the information from each moon and then like a little calendar. It's got the Sabbats and the Esbats, all 13 moons and all 8 Sabbats. It's got some Hindu festival like dates in there. It's got the astrology stuff, so you can kind of follow along as the sun and the moon as they go throughout their year. And it's like this little size. And I also have a smaller one that's like the pocket size version.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you guys a link to download it if you want to, if you could just type your email into the chat and I'll send these to you. I printed these out at like FedEx and it's like, they're like $5. It's like $8 for the small one and $13 for the large one that I'm going to have if I print it out. It's actually kind of a lot expensive to print out the color and everything. So, but the digital downloads I'm going to give to you guys if you want to print it at home in black and white or whatever. It's already laid out so that it's, if you print it double-sided, when you cut it out, it just folds into a little booklet, little pamphlet, and you can have that, put a little staple in the middle, and it's good to go. But if you want to print it in color and all that, I can do that for you, but it's just going to cost money because I have to spend money to do that.
I like that.
But yeah, I would like to give you guys these and send me your email. I'll give you the digital download and then, yeah, it's something I want to share with you guys. So please put that in the chat. I've got Golden Rose codes, Kelsey's email, and Elisha, awesome. And I know I have Sharon's too because she just texted it, sent it to me today.
Thank you. They're so beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You
I
did
know
a great
you'll
job.
like it.
They're so cute. I'm so excited.
It's like what I need, so I'm like, this is kind of like the summary of the whole year and all the work I put into it. So it's like, this is what I want at least to start with that for 2022 because I don't know if I'm going to continue I'm probably not going to continue the Zoom circles because it's just been, it was a container a year practice and it was great. But I'm going to see what else comes up. I'm not sure what's going to come up, but it's probably going to be different.
Yes, I mean evolution, and you committed to a year cycle, which is so beautiful.
Yeah,
Now you get to make space.
It's a lot to have to do something like this at a certain point every month.
It is a lot, and I think I was overwhelmed by the marketing aspect. It was hard to get people all on board, and the technology thing. The first 3 months were like really difficult with the technology, and still, it's difficult with technology of marketing and all that headache. Like if I could just make the content and hold the space, it would be great.
Yeah.
You just gotta hire somebody. It's fine.
I don't know.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, right.
I get it.
And we'll split the profits of 0 and
Yeah. Well, this was wonderful. I wish I would have made it to the others too, but I feel like I'm always like putting my kids to bed at that time. So it's just, I don't know.
let me share my screen. I want to just share you guys the screen so then you can see how to get this. I'll share with you the page where the calendar is going to be at. Actually, I'm going to chat it to you guys too right now. Let's see.
So if I want you to print me one, do I just I'll just say PayPal you or just pay you when I see you or something? So
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that'd be cool. Thank
okay.
you.
Yeah, I think how much did you say the big one was?
13, the goddess number 13, and the small one's 8. Just like the Sabbats of the year, the wheel of the year.
I
I
love
think I
that.
could
So
the big
beautiful.
one.
Oh, chat. Here we go.
I mean, if I pay for one for you to print it for me, does that mean you'll come visit?
That's included. I hear you're going to be seeing Jen. Are you going to hook up with Jen soon?
I mean, I don't know. I didn't find out how long she's here, but if she's here and has some
She's
time, I
there.
totally
Like,
want to.
her mom is opening a bakery in Salt Lake City. You guys are probably
Oh,
going to be hanging out soon.
that's
But
awesome.
I
Yes. I
totally
love that
send
she's
it
like
to you.
making all her rounds with the people, and now I get to be one of the people. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so on this site, there is the just the PDF. There's the half page print is half page creates this size, and then the quarter page creates this size. And it's a little confusing because when you open it up, it's like, oh, it's all out of order and stuff. But my brain figured it out to where when you cut this out, you kind of have to figure out how to put them in order, right? And that's what is the fun part, right? But yeah, so
I got that. It's going
print
to be
this.
great.
But yeah, I can send you a color physical copy if you want to just hop on the link I sent. And yeah, it's 13 or 8 there. Or, just tell me and we can work it out. And yeah, this is my little creation for you all. I
Yay.
did most of the all the information is my own content, but there is some I got from Witchy Wisdom. These ones you may have seen them on Pinterest, and I couldn't find like where Witchy Wisdom was because they're no longer online. It's just like pinned in Pinterest, and then the source is gone. So I'm like, dang, it's gone. But those are the only ones I didn't create. And then Canva had some that were like just open source, like this Wheel of the Year. Actually, the one that's on the screen, the Wheel of the Year, that was just open source thing that Canva had. So, yeah,
Cool.
I'm looking forward to what next year will bring for all of us. And I
Me
do
too.
really love connecting on the new moons. And, that's how the Red Tent kind of started, just like getting together on the new moon. And, maybe we'll go that way. The technology part is just like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Right. I get it.
Yeah.
I have to do it often as well. And that's usually why I wasn't able to make more of your calls, is because we do an event on the same day. And mine happened to be last night to get in front of the eclipse. So that's when I did my meditation with the group.
And I got to catch those. I don't know why I don't know about these things.
So it's the ones that I do are actually part of like the society group. So it's like the monthly group, and it's a subscription, and you get all the content, and there's 4 or 5 calls. So there's like a full moon and a new moon like meditation every month, obviously. And then I do the astro call, which essentially I go over the calendar that I make and like go into depth on what all the transits are doing.
I want to join this club. I need
Okay, I'll send you a link. I will send you the link. And so I write the calendar every month, so you get a whole calendar of the transits. And then I do like affirmations and journal prompts and things like that. And then you get held in the container. So we have like a Facebook, we have, like different chats and stuff going. And then there's a coaching call. So there's at least those 4 calls every month. And then quarterly, we add in like a fun kind of like / kids event. So like we're going to do
Is this
vision
Sonia's
boards.
thing or is it your thing?
So it was Sonia's, and then she gave it to me. But now we do some of it. Now we do it together, because like I write the content by myself completely now, and then I do the astro call, she does the coaching call, and then sometimes we'll do the meditations together if we can align. Otherwise we pick them out together and then she hosts them. It just depends on if I'm available to like go up to her house or that kind of stuff, because we do most of the stuff up at her place. Yeah, so it's a both and.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, definitely I want to know more. I want to be more involved because I want to see how you guys do it. I tried, to do it this year, and it was very difficult and proved to be very, just like not financially stable, like
Right. Yeah, well, on that
time
regard, if you want
versus
to just like
effort
set up
versus.
a chat, between you and I, if you have any questions, if you want to continue or maybe do it in a different way, I probably have some info and insights to help that, in case you decide that that's something you want to continue to do in the future, just because I've learned so much this year and it is pretty successful. Not we are very successful. We have I think there's like almost 200 people in our society right now.
Wow.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to ring the
And
bell
ooh,
and
yay!
stop the recording. Let's see. Yes. All right. But yeah, that's so, Alicia, Kelsey is the Moon Babes in the Light Tribe. Have you heard of them?
No.
They're pretty big deal.
That sounds really cool. What is it?
Thank you.
Moon Babes in the Light
Yeah.
Tribe.
Yep, Moon Babes and the Light Tribe. You can find us on Instagram. The Instagram is pretty much just like it. Sonia runs it, so it's her business she started, and then I came on as like her second to help her, like hold space, do all the things, expand. I do all the tech stuff, that kind of thing, and yeah, it's been really beautiful. We teach higher consciousness living through meditation, astral travel, astrology, embodiment work, all that kind of things. So I'm big on the astrology, so she had me pull in and do that. And she is like an epic astral travel guide, and like tracks people's energy in the astral plane. And so she actually taught me how to do that so we can hold bigger groups and take people up together. And so like she kind of guides in the front and I kind of hold space in the back to make sure nobody loses pieces of their consciousness and everybody gets to stay super safe and in a grounded way and that kind of thing.
Okay, and you missed last month we did group past life regression meditation.
Ooh, that's amazing.
It's up there. It's on YouTube. All my stuff is free. It's online.
Okay, I'll totally check it out. That's exciting. I would love to be a part of that. See what comes up.
Yeah, that was Amanda was leading that one.
Okay, cool. That's exciting.
Yeah. Well, cool. Yeah, I've got a bit of a headache, and this my big thing is Keith got locked up the other night, and that was kind of a big deal.
Oh no.
Yeah, so we're dealing with that.
What happened?
He was like on his bicycle, didn't have a headlight, and they found some marijuana on him.
What?
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wait, how is that still
so
legal?
ridiculous?
And I mean, like, is it even illegal? But he had it in like, because they're different types, so he had like 5 different bags in different types, and they're like, you're distributing.
Oh no.
So it's a felony. It's
Oh no.
It's ridiculous.
Okay,
so
well,
we have to
sending all of the good vibes that way because that is.
I'm so sorry.
Me too.
Yeah,
much compassion.
It was tough. I came home from Kirtan. I was like, "What? Where's Keith? And his truck's here. I'm so confused. He's not answering his phone. He didn't show up at the friend's house. Like, what's going on?"
Oh my god.
Yeah, got a call at like midnight from the detention center.
Man, that sucks. I hope that will get figured out and not that way. Like that's intense because that is where they're still like cracking down.
Right, and there's like there's a trial, and it's like 2 days before Christmas, so we're gonna.
Oh my goodness, so soon.
Lawyer, I know, and.
Can you like postpone it? Because that's
gonna be the first thing we're gonna try to do for sure until after, like around my birthday, because we're planning to go on a little trip to Seattle, and
Well, hopefully something like that. And really, I mean, this eclipse is, as you know, it's bringing up epic change, karmic cycle ending. Like this is a big time for lessons, especially with it being a south node eclipse. So all that Jupiter energy, right? Like you get the gifts after you go through the lesson.
I definitely see the blessing in the lesson. It's definitely like we need to focus on marijuana reform. Like he works with hemp, and this is just like why is this a Schedule 1 thing? Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. Can we see the eclipse tonight and what time?
It's a solar
Uh,
one. It happened in the daytime, right?
Oh, it was a solar eclipse.
Mhm.
So it was over Antarctica and
Okay.
then little bit of Australia, and it
Okay.
was so are you both on the East Coast?
Yes.
So it was 12:01. It was 2:42 in the morning today.
Oh.
So it's already over.
Oh, cool. So
Yeah.
couldn't see it.
Yeah,
either.
it wasn't a visible one. In my little
No.
pocket guide, it has a page on eclipses that are visible. There's going to be 2 big visible lunar eclipses next year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice. I haven't been keeping up on that. I ended up seeing the lunar one though.
Oh, that other night.
Yeah, the other night
Yeah.
because Amanda and I were talking. I didn't even really know about it until like the day of, and I think I had a client in early labor, and I was like, I'm gonna go to sleep because she was talking about staying up. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to sleep. I'm not doing that. And then she ended up going to sleep and not seeing it, but I ended up waking up at like 3:30, and Taylor did too, and he was like, oh, it's cloudy outside because our window was like moist, so he thought it was cloudy. And I was like, well, I'm gonna go downstairs. And when I was downstairs, I was like, I'm just gonna check and see, and it was like perfect. I mean, it was like still getting a little bit more fully covered. So I like woke up my kids, and we all 4 of us went outside and like
Neat.
froze our butts off, and like it was really fun.
That's
Like,
beautiful.
morning.
That was like the longest one in ever.
Yeah.
Oh, really? It was the
Yep.
longest lasting?
Longest lasting because duration.
It won't be another long one for like 500 years like that.
Yeah.
Wow, okay, so that's why it
Yeah.
was so unique, because it was long.
It was like 6 hours from umbra
Yep.
to umbra.
Yep.
Wow.
Which is unheard of. It's been like 500 years since that happened. And yeah, it was like it peaked at like 2:02 here, so that would have been like 4:00 your time.
Yeah, at 4:00 it was like, I think we stayed out here outside until like 4:20 maybe, and I was like, at that point it wasn't getting any more like fully covered. I was like, yeah, okay, we've seen it. Now we're going to go to bed.
Nice.
We're going back to bed now and getting warm. But
That's
it was cool to see it, especially since I was like, I'm not seeing it. I'm not doing that.
And then you got a little surprise.
Yeah.
Not feeling well. I did not see any of it. But in like Hindu culture, it's really bad luck to like go out and to even look at it. You're not.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, totally. And like you're supposed to shower on lunar ones, you shower before and after, but never during. And you're not supposed to sleep, and you're not supposed to look at it.
Well, I did all of it.
Yeah.
And I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah. I mean, I
Well,
was
I was
outside in my hot
sleeping,
tub,
so I
but then
was-
it got cloudy, so I couldn't really see it. So I was like, is this part of the karma?
I don't know, because Arcadia and Sybil were talking about making full like moon water that night.
Mm-hmm.
And Arcadia was like, I'm not going to do it because of the eclipse. And then Sybil was like, I'm going to do it because of the eclipse.
Yeah.
And then
that's,
I
a lot
read,
of witchy women are on both sides, are on one.
Right. I know. I
either
read,
side.
I was like,
I
oh, well,
need that
Arcadia's
energy.
right.
It's like shadow work energy.
Yeah.
I love
mean,
it.
I don't know.
think it's super
Sybil was like,
powerful.
I'm doing it. So she did it, and she drank the water, and she was like, it was all her. I was like, nothing to do with it. She was
Wow.
all excited, and I was like, okay, you do it because you're more
That's awesome.
smart than like anything that you can read about anyway, right? Like you have more intuitive knowledge than.
And even Arcadia had the intuitive knowledge
Right.
to not do it.
Right, for his own self. Like,
Yeah.
both were right. I was like, that's interesting to then read that both sides are right anyway, but I was already still like, you need to do what you need to do. And I think that's, as a little 8-year-old, you're doing good.
Yeah. Om Namo Guru Dev Namo. Your wisdom is within. Your teacher is within.
Yep, for sure. Yeah.
Well,
This
thank
was
you so much for
wonderful.
being here.
Thank you.
Yeah,
for
thank you for
me.
having us. Oh, and setting up this beautiful circle.
Yeah.
Did it. All the cycles.
It was really nice to meet you, Kelsey.
It was nice to meet you as well. Thanks for sharing all of your stories.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
I'll have to come out to Utah. I mean, I'm still waiting to hear if I'm going to be in Arizona or not. But, we'll see.
Okay. Yeah, you'll have
I should find out in the next couple of weeks if I'm going to.
Okay. So I might be coming to visit the show, AZ, because I have stuff in the booth still because I lived there last
Awesome.
time I was there, and then now I don't, and it's not a thing. But obviously, I wanted to kind of fetch the things from Star, and yeah, I think it'll be really healing for me to go, even though, like, if you would have talked to me 3 months ago, I would have been like, "Fuck that, it's not safe."
Oh, right. Oh, I
So
remember
we'll
people
see.
getting all.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
I
if you do
essentially got burned
go,
at the
or it
stake.
sounds like
So,
you
but
will
if
be
you're
going. If
there,
I go, we're
yeah.
definitely gonna hang out.
Yeah. Well, let me know if you go. That might also help because, you know, I really do want to see the few couple people that are still my friends.
Absolutely.
There aren't many, but you are one of them.
I'm gonna hop off.
And
I'm gonna say good night.
Okay, good night,
Good
Elisha.
night.
good night.
Good night.
Yeah. So if you go and that kind of thing, because Star's also like, well, I could bring the stuff back to you if you decide it's out of your boundary and